Hey everyone! Today we're diving into the radiant legacy of Marvel's Starbrand, and later in the video I'll break down how Marvel Snap translates his stellar powers from the comics into gameplay. Now, let's jump in. 1 million years ago, when mammoths roamed the earth and humanity was just finding its way, there lived a man different from the rest of his tribe. Vnn knew he was different, not because of any power or ability, but because of who he loved. Fearing rejection and worse, he abandoned his tribe and ventured into the unknown wilderness. He was searching for something most would call a myth, a lush garden he'd glimpsed only in his dreams. What few knew about Vnn was his remarkable nature. He possessed a superhuman intelligence that would later impress even his most brilliant allies. More striking still was his gentle soul, a pacifist who refused to kill even when starving, who would rather suffer than cause harm to another living being. This compassion made him unique in a brutal prehistoric world where survival often meant violence. Days turned to weeks. His body grew weak, his lips cracked from thirst. And just when death seemed certain, when the harsh prehistoric world had nearly claimed another victim, a hand reached out to him. That hand belonged to Brrkk. "I thought I'd be alone forever," Brrkk told him, leading Vnn into the garden that had called to him in dreams, a paradise hidden from the violent world outside. Brrkk was constantly amazed by Vnn's intuitive understanding of the garden's bizarre plants, finding uses for them that even Brrkk hadn't imagined. Together, they built a life of peace and discovery. Two souls connected in a world that offered little room for tenderness. But paradise, as it turns out, is never safe for long. The deviants, ancient enemies of both humans and Eternals, discovered the garden. They sensed its power source, coveted it, and came with destruction in their hearts. Vnn and Brrkk fought side by side, defending their sanctuary with everything they had. For a while, it seemed like they might succeed. They were outnumbered, but determined, fighting not just for survival, but for the life they had built together. Then came the cave-in. The ground beneath them gave way. Vnn reached for Brrkk's hand, but caught only air as they plummeted into darkness. When Vnn regained consciousness, he found himself alone beside Brrkk's broken body. But they weren't the only ones who had fallen into that ancient chasm. There in the darkness lay the massive skeleton of a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and embedded in its prehistoric bones glowed a mark unlike anything Vnn had ever seen, the Starbrand, one of the universe's most powerful forces, waiting for a worthy bearer. The Starbrand was no ordinary power. It granted its wielder abilities limited only by imagination, flight, godlike strength, invulnerability, and the power to unleash energy blasts equivalent to nuclear explosions. The perfect weapon, the ultimate protection, a star's worth of power contained within a human vessel. Vnn didn't feel worthy. "It should have been you," he whispered to Brrkk's lifeless form. Yet when he touched the glowing mark, the power recognized something in him. Perhaps his grief, perhaps his love, perhaps his rage. The Starbrand transferred to Vnn, and in that moment, everything changed. He erupted from the chasm with cosmic energy pouring from his eyes and fingertips. The deviants who had destroyed his happiness found themselves facing not a frightened human, but a god unleashed. Mountains crumbled. The very garden he had sought to protect was razed in his fury. When the dust settled, Vnn stood alone once more, but now bearing power that rivaled the Celestials themselves. The pacifist who once refused to kill even to feed himself was gone, replaced by a being consumed with hatred and rage, yet still determined to protect the world from threats like those who had taken Brrkk from him. Months later, a figure approached Vnn as he sat among the ruins of what had once been his sanctuary. It was Odin gathering Earth's mightiest prehistoric heroes. "The world needs protectors," Odin told him. "It needs avengers." And so Vnn joined the Stone Age Avengers, fighting threats beyond imagination. They battled a rogue celestial known as the Fallen, sealing it beneath what would someday become South Africa. They were there at the birth of Thor, fighting frost giants who sought to kill the infant god. Through it all, Ven remained haunted by loss. Even after discovering others with extraordinary abilities, he felt more alone than ever. He possessed the intelligence to wield the Starbrand in ways that astonished even his godly teammates, yet found little joy in his power or his victories, often spending his time brooding and mourning the one person he had truly cared about. Eventually, Vnn retreated to solitude on the moon, where Agamotto later found him to face one final threat: Doom Supreme. Despite holding his own against this multiversal threat, Ven ultimately fell in battle. A tragic end for a hero whose story began with a search for acceptance. In Marvel Snap, Starbrand is a 3-cost 10-power card with the ability Ongoing. Your opponent has +3 power at each other location. This means he gives your opponent a total of +6 power. In the comics, Starbrand possesses godlike powers limited only by the wielder's imagination. The high 10 power value for just 3 energy certainly reflects Starbrand's immense power in the comics. He's extremely powerful for his cost. However, the downside of boosting your opponent's power at other locations doesn't align well with his comic abilities. The current implementation seems designed to create interesting strategic choices rather than accurately represent his powers. He gives you a big power boost in one location at the cost of making your other locations harder to win. It creates tough decisions, which is good game design, but not perfectly tied to the character's lore. Thank you for taking this cosmic journey with me. Who do you want me to cover next? Let me know in the comments. Until next time.